Good evening and welcome to the November 22nd, 2021 regular meeting of the Mayor and City Council. First item on our agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. I'd like to ask Councilmember Harris to lead us in the pledge tonight.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, Neil. Next item on our agenda is reflection. And as this is Thanksgiving week, I know I speak for everyone here at this virtual dais and in saying how grateful we are for our community, our residents, businesses, and stakeholders for all that we have and for the opportunities before us. And I hope all of you watching agree. And I'd like to call for a moment of silence, please. Thank you all very much. Next on our agenda is, we just did reflection, we're doing appointments, and we just pull up where we are. Tonight we have several appointments and a reappointment to various committees. What is the pleasure of the council?
Mr. Mayor, I'll move that we approve the resolution.
Okay, typically in the motion, we read the, so that will work. Let's just table that for a sec. Rob Wu, go ahead, you raised your hand.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I will move the resolution approving your appointments to various committees. First, the Multicultural Affairs Committee, Israel Isaiah, for a term expiring on 11/2023. A reappointment to the Board of Appeals for a 3-year term for Sarah Yassin as an alternate, term expiring October 2024. A reappointment to the Personnel Review Board for a 3-year term for Ian Kessler, a term expiring 10/2024. And a reappointment to the Police Advisory Committee for a 2-year term, John Monroe, with a term expiring 11/2023.
Cool. That's generally how we read in the appointments. Jim, go ahead and second it.
I'll go ahead and second. I thought you were waiting for one of the new people.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is call the roll. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Any opposed say nay. Councilmember Harris.
Aye.
Councilmember McNulty.
Aye.
Councilmember Henderson.
Aye.
And Councilmember Wu.
Aye.
Okay, carries 4-0. And we will thank all of our new appointees when we see them. Next, we have presentations. And the first one, tech team, if you could bring up the Proclamation for Small Business Saturday. And I will just say, scheduled between the retail behemoths of Black Friday and Cyber Monday, Small Business Saturday highlights the importance of shopping locally, whether for goods or services. American Express created the quote unquote holiday in 2010 with the goal of encouraging support for local shops and small online retailers. In Gaithersburg, the day celebrates not only retailers, but also the many other types of small independent employers that contribute to the local economy throughout the year. The COVID-19 pandemic has had an especially large impact on these businesses, whose owners and workers have valiantly addressed rapid transformation in these unique times. And so we salute them with this proclamation, and we thank you all for hopefully joining us and doing some local shopping on Saturday. And you know, it doesn't just have to be Saturday; it could be any day of the week, and we strongly encourage it. So thank you, tech team. And next, I'd like tech team to call up Kim Francisco, our Director of Finance and Administration, and Nate Bassett, our Senior Budget Analyst, to talk about the FY23 budget survey results and attempt to conduct a live poll of the Mayor and Council this evening. That should be interesting. Welcome, Kim.
Good evening, Mayor Ashman and members of the council. I want to start off by making sure that everyone has the link that I sent previously for the live polling session. Yes, okay, great. Well, I will start our presentation. Okay. So, as you all know, we conducted a budget survey of the community for our FY23 budget planning process. We used a number of budget survey engagement methods, which included the use of our first Spanish language survey. We also had a formal press release. We had a splash page on our website. We sent around information and graphics packages to various HOAs and nonprofit partners. We posted flyers in apartment complexes and circulated this information in various e-newsletters with the help of our PIO office. We also had a social media campaign on Facebook and targeted our student union and youth groups to engage them in the process as well. And what you see here is also just the image of our flyer, our bilingual flyer that we used as part of this budget survey. Our participation went up about 50% this year. So in FY22, we had about 215 responses, and this year we had 322 in total. We had 8 responses for our Spanish language survey, which is not what we hoped for. We were hoping for much more engagement, but it is year one, and we will press forward and continue to engage and attempt to reach out that way as well in future years. And this just highlights some of the demographics. You know, a lot of this is very consistent with the previous year. We had an increase in participation, but the breakdown of that is pretty consistent with what we observed in FY22 for that survey. About 50% female participation over male and other. And then we had the highest rate of participation for those 65 and older. And then we also show here a racial breakdown of how our respondents answered that question as well. We saw a really pretty even spread of participation across the city, which I think is fantastic. We saw a slight decrease in this pink shaded area, the Thursday recycling pickup area. We saw a slight decrease there, but then small increases proportionately in all other areas of the city for survey participation.
Kim, before you go on, can we go back
Sure.
to that slide?
Sure.
I just want to, can you explain how everything that we're looking at in terms of participation in the days of the week? I'm assuming this is corresponding to recycle days, is that correct?
Yes. These are the recycling days. And so that was one of the questions on the survey. We asked people to indicate their recycling days so that we could really get a sense of where, what communities, what part of the city we're getting these responses from. We really want to try to engage all parts of the community, of course, right? So, you know, we see, you know, quite a bit of participation really across the board. And I do want to highlight that there are 14% of our respondents did not know which recycling day they had. And that could be because they're not actually city residents, and maybe they made it halfway through the survey before they realized that, but it may also just be that they didn't want to specify. So, you know, that 14% is out there, but as compared to the previous year, we saw a slight decrease in that pink area, that Thursday pickup area, and we saw some slight increases in all the other areas. So, you know, the Monday, Tuesday, Friday, Wednesday neighborhoods all saw a little bit of an increase in proportionate participation in the survey.
Thank you, Kim. Another theory on the 14% is they could be multi-family and might not know what the city, what the city day is, but because they can drop off the recycling in any day of the week. Could be.
That's absolutely true. Absolutely.
If I could jump in just really fast, we did include a map that people could link to so they could see which area they were in, and also in terms of absolute numbers. Even the Thursday did not drop off. There was still, it increased to 40 from 35 responses last year. So just the percentage increase, not necessarily the number of responses.
Nate's absolutely right. This is more a reflection of the proportionate participation, not total numbers, right? Because we did see a significant, a good increase in survey participation this year. So I'm going to hand this over to Nate and let him talk about the actual results of our survey.
So budget survey results. One of the questions that we added this year, because we felt it might help prime people to kind of answer the survey, is which city services have you used in the last year? I think this is a question that, isn't actually asked that frequently when people are doing budget surveys. But you'll notice that by far and away, over half of the people that responded said that they use bulk pickup. And then recreation facilities, that's the other big one. So, there's a smattering of other things, the police department, pet licensing, adult recreation classes. But it's good to note just kind of where people are using services, and also keep this in the back of your mind when you're looking at the results. If you want to move to the second slide. So, this is a question, part of our core group of questions that we've asked over the last few years is, while we're deciding to allocate where tax dollars go, what are the three top areas of focus for each department? So for the police department, there was a rephrasing of this police officer training. So previously we had called it police cadet training, and it jumped from 4th to 1st place. Aside from that, the other priorities are still the same. So community policing is in 2nd from 1st, community outreach is 3rd from 2nd, and then criminal investigations is 4th. So those all kind of just moved. But I think that definitely speaks to how important people are finding police officer training at this point in time. On the public works department, these are essentially the same, snow plowing and park maintenance swap places, but they're still extremely close. And recycling collection is also the most important thing. And I think the efforts that we're doing there with like the recycle coach and everything are clearly evident. People are interested in this. For parks, recreation, and culture, this is another one where we didn't have any changes to the categories. There are the parks and amenities, which was, again, far and away in 1st place. But then we have some movement in terms of the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th priorities. So recreation facilities and amenities went from 4th to 2nd, and then the others slid down. So community events and festivals from 2nd to 3rd. And youth and teen centers from 3rd to 4th. But we also did receive some comments about the applicability, the active older adult programs, and Kim will talk about that in a minute. And then if you were deciding where to allocate for neighborhood services, on this one, these priorities are exactly the same. There was no change to the categories this year. So we see, percentage wise and response wise, it's relatively the same. And then community services, there were some changes to the categories here this year. Food and nutrition services replaced social enrichment grants or social service grants. And that placed above housing assistance, which dropped down a little bit relative in the standing. But homeless services and career and vocational training continue to be priorities for the residents of the city. Here, so we asked this question again this year related to the American Rescue Plan Act. I think the prior year we had asked about the CARES Act funding. And so asking about these special federal funds, we didn't really highlight which ones specifically got the most answers. You'll notice that the lowest response received over 80 still, and that was the enhanced community policing initiatives. But infrastructure and capital improvements was the #1 priority for this question, followed by small business assistance. And I definitely think the residents are interested in those infrastructure projects. We asked a question about, do we do you think that we need to increase services or add more facilities? This was fairly, so a majority said no. And yes came in at 45%. So there's a 10% over for the no side. But we did notice that for the Spanish speaking participants, that they were more likely to say yes than no. But the sample size there was relatively small. So it's not necessarily indicative of that population. And then if you answered yes, how should we pay for these enhanced services? And I'll kind of walk through the key here. So the property tax increase is the one at 10%. The developer fee increase is at 42%. User fee increases at 10%. The reduce spending and eliminate specific services is at 29%. And then the issuance of bonds is at 9%. That's relatively similar to last year, where there's a definite favoring of developer fee increases and user fee increases. And then if there wasn't enough revenue to pay for everything, the first city service I would reduce spending on. Here we looked at the top 5 priorities. So on this question, we gave people an option in the drop-down menu to select every category that had been an option as one of the priorities in the other departments. So the top 5 priorities in terms of reducing spending were parking enforcement at 14%, street sweeping at 10%, community events and festivals at 11%, which kind of, you have those people that either love them or hate them. They either want to pay for them or they don't. Flower planting and mowing at 8%, and then aquatic programs at 5%. And then other is just everything else. So 48% of the people that responded picked one of those five categories. And then I'm going to let Kim speak to the general community ideas and feedback.
So we gave everyone an opportunity to provide ideas and feedback, and we wanted to take the opportunity to highlight some of those here, just for the council. And we can also forward you the complete listing of all of them. For the ones that we received in Spanish, they've been translated here for you. So one of the community ideas is to provide more grants to encourage and facilitate businesses to come and establish themselves in Old Town. To consider and improve senior center to help meet the needs of our growing senior population. And to have our crosswalks designed by artists. This person indicated that unexpected graphics would slow down traffic and make it safer for pedestrians and create a unique sense of place. We thought that was a very interesting idea. And then another one is to offer more translations of official documents and to provide interpretation services during city council meetings. Develop community gardens or food forests to tie people to the food they eat and the environment that supports us. This was a comment that we saw a couple of times in different forms. Another idea was to get creative with community outreach and to have a block party that provides all departments an opportunity to have attractions and help residents get a better sense of services that we provide. Lastly, this is another one that we saw a couple of times through the survey, to expand composting locations or consider adding composting pickup services. So we just thought that, we would highlight a couple of these that we thought were interesting, creative, or that we saw a couple of times, just to make sure that you had that as part of our presentation tonight. And now we will move into the prioritization polling session. Are there any questions? Before we do that, are there any questions on the actual budget survey results? Yes, Councilmember Harris.
Tech team, if you can take us out of the PowerPoint so I can see everybody.
I can do that actually.
Okay. Okay. Any questions or comments? Just raise your hand and I'll call on you. Neil.
So my question is this: the survey seemed to indicate that people wanted us to use the incoming federal money for more infrastructure. but yet they didn't, on a different survey question, they didn't want us to build new facilities or things. So what do they want us to do with that infrastructure money? Did we get any clear indication?
I would imagine, based on what you noted there, is that they probably would want us to do a good job of maintaining what we have, perhaps. That's a possibility.
Okay, thank you. We'll go to Jim.
Thanks, Mayor. I just have a question on methodology. Was the survey only available as a online survey?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, I'm
There
just
were no
wondering.
paper surveys.
Okay, I'm just wondering if the access might have skewed some of the numbers, particularly on wanting additional resources. Older audiences or people who don't necessarily have access to technology may have answered differently.
I will say that as far as survey responses, we typically see most of the survey responses come from people who are older and whiter. The exact audience that would potentially come from or be the ones that would be likely to use a paper survey. We did distribute flyers that had QR codes on them that, they went out to apartment complexes, they went out to HOAs. So people would have been able to, basically walk up to somewhere, take a picture with their camera and access the survey through that. And so the idea is we're trying to use technology to be more accessible that way, which it is harder for those who don't have access to the technology. But in lieu of printing out a ton of surveys and having to process it that way, with the staff resources that we have, we felt that this was the best way to try and expand. And we also, PIO did a fantastic job this year providing resources to the HOAs directly, to the apartment complexes. Neighborhood services helped with that. So we really tried to disseminate these resources as much as possible across the widest variety of channels that we could. And trying to bridge the gap with accessibility that way.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Nate. What I would just add, Councilmember McNulty, is just that, we do have a biennial survey. And so something that I've discussed with our city manager is finding an opportunity to incorporate some of these budget survey questions into that biennial citizen survey. And those surveys would go directly to people's doors and would, include a mass mailing to reach people perhaps more broadly than this. But to Nate's point, our largest responses did come from people over the age of 65.
Thank you.
All right, we'll go to Rob Wu.
Thanks, Mayor. And thank you for the presentation, Kim. And Nate, sorry. So I was surprised by the strength of the response about using developer fees to fund amenities. And I was wondering if there was anything we can glean from that, because obviously in order to have development fees, you need development. And so is there any distribution that we can see? Are people in certain areas of the city more pro-development than others, that they want to use these fees to fund amenities?
We're not able to see the responses, specific responses to specific questions by area. Unfortunately, with the way that this survey is laid out, that's unfortunate.
We'll go to Lisa.
Thank you. Thank you, Kim and Nate, for this survey and the responses. This is fantastic. The question I have, Nate, you already responded to some of it, but with the increase in responses and additionally the Hispanic responses, the responses we received from the Hispanic community, were there things that happened this time that you think provided that increase that you want to continue to do more of?
Yes, I think this year, so with Kim leading this, and then, I kind of pushed. So last year we did not have the survey available in Spanish. This year we worked with PIO to try and develop more channels So the HOA packets and the neighborhood services, the packets that we sent to them by email, I don't know that we made those resources available last year. I definitely think that helped and contributed. Also, just having the survey available in Spanish, although we didn't have that many responses, I think that potentially that will help a lot too. As far as social media, we did push it out in English and Spanish, I think on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And so, just we were using a wide variety of channels, probably more than last year. I can't speak to it specifically.
Something else I would just mention is that, we produce a bilingual flyer, and a lot of people who are using mobile devices have automated translation built in. And so it could very well be that people were using our English survey and it translated for them. And that perhaps just by seeing a flyer presented in 2 languages, that enticed them to look more closely and to engage. That's a possibility. It's not something that we can prove exactly, but we had a lot of discussions about engagement and trying to make sure that we're doing something that works with the technology that people use these days.
Thank you.
So thank you guys for the presentation. We'll look forward to what we're about to do with the polling. But I just wanted to note that some of these ideas that came from the public are really interesting. I mean, some of them we're doing in some form or another anyway. The business grants, the community outreach. I know that we're not specifically doing block party, but when it's not a pandemic, we are every quarter doing council in the community in the 8 different quadrants of the city to get out in front of people and reintroduce how we serve everybody. So I think we're accomplishing similar goals there. I love the idea of the crosswalks. It seems like that's not even a particularly expensive thing, although I'll leave it to Tony Berger and professionals for the road code implications of doing stuff like that. Translations, great. New senior center has come up several times, and I think we'd all love to do it. It's a big expense, so we have to see how that could be made to happen. But we recognize the demographic trends that are happening in the city. And composting, I think everyone's happy, encouraged by the success of the composting in the 2 places we have it, and would look for opportunities. So I really like these constructive ideas from the survey participants. It's really great. Neil, I see your hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up on your comment on the block parties. I mean, one thing that we might consider is having more city department representation at Summerfest, assuming we do Summerfest again going forward, that we have booths set up or something like that. This, similarly to what we do at Council at the Communities, of course, without the formal presentations. So that it's a good opportunity for residents of the city to interact with different departments. I don't know how popular that would be with the departments themselves, but it might be something worth considering. Another point, and I probably won't win any popularity prizes for this point, but to Rob's question about where people wanted the money to come from if we needed to do more, honestly, my interpretation of the results is the most popular responses were the ones that came from somebody else's pocket and not the pockets of our citizens. Developer fees was number 1. I think the second most popular also was money that came from somewhere else. So I think that's actually not unnatural, that people would prefer to not pay for things if they could get somebody else to pay for it. But that's just one interpretation.
Yeah, I think, the general rules of human nature apply in Gaithersburg too. That does happen. So, okay, Kim, go ahead and lead us through this process.
Okay, I will go back to sharing the screen. If you could all find those links that I sent out. Okay. The city needs more. You can select up to 3. And don't worry if you don't see something that you like and you're thinking, oh, it's not here. There's a second one. We couldn't fit it all onto one slide. Okay.
I think we're missing one person, Kim,
Um,
because it's only 5:05.
yes,
Yeah, we're missing Ryan, who's
Right.
not here tonight.
he's not here
Oh.
tonight. Okay.
And Judd doesn't have a vote.
In this, I do. Thank you very much, Rob.
So this is interesting. We see strong responses for community outreach, community policing, and infrastructure maintenance and capital improvements. Okay. Okay. The city needs more economic development initiatives. Wow, 100%. Senior services and facilities. And then it looks like we have a tie. Parks and open space, career and vocational training. This is excellent feedback. Okay, and as Nate mentioned, the city received significant federal grants through the American Rescue Plan Act. We got our first tranche in May 2021. We'll get our second tranche in just about 6 months for a total of 11.5 million. How would you like to see the city prioritize the use of these funds? Please pick 3. Okay, we see really strong responses with economic development, small business assistance, and rental and homeowner assistance programs. Do you believe that we need to add or expand upon city services? Okay, most of our council tonight is saying yes. And what about city facilities? Should we add or expand city facilities? Okay, it's a little closer here. 60% yes and 40% no. In order to maintain a balanced budget and prioritize city initiatives, what measures should we implement to ensure adequate funding? Okay, reduce spending, eliminate specific services, and developer fee increases with no takers on property tax rate increases or bonds or user fee increases. Okay. That sums up our questions for this evening. We will put together some council correspondence that just summarizes the results of this live polling session. We really thank you all for your participation. We have already begun some planning for FY23, and so it is really helpful to us to hear from all of you about your priorities for FY23 and beyond. And we know that we're also in the middle of some strategic planning, and so that will certainly be factored in to our plans and to our process as we continue in the FY23 budget development. I thank you all tonight, and then if there's any questions, I'm happy to take them at this time.
Thank you, Kim. Thank you, Nate. Any additional questions or comments? Just raise your hand. Not seeing any. Okay, well then, Nate, go ahead.
I just wanted to make a comment. So the question that we had about where we were looking at people's different responses that was open-ended, that was also a new question this year. And we, in our research, had found an organization that basically said, if you had one idea that could make the city a better place, what would it be? And I think that that's a question that is great to ask. It was great to see the answers that people provided. And it's definitely something that we'll want to look forward to moving forward.
Excellent. I'm sure we all have different answers to that, but excellent. Well, so we thank you, and we look forward to how this budget sort of comes together, and we now have a new council. I'll be interested to see how this all works. So we appreciate you leading us through it.
Thank you so much.
All right, and next on our agenda is public comments. This is the time when the mayor and council would like to hear from anybody who'd like to speak on any topic that's not a public hearing topic, and that's easy tonight because we don't have any public hearings. We ask that you keep your comments to no more than 3 minutes. If you have more than 3 minutes worth of material to deliver, just deliver it to us via email. Take your 3 minutes and also email us, and we're glad to consider it just like any oral testimony. We ask that you state your name and address or your neighborhood if you feel more comfortable. For the record, do we have anybody who'd like to speak tonight? If so, use the Zoom raise hand function. The people I see in the public don't need the instructional video. They know how to testify if they need to. Do we have anybody who'd like to speak tonight? Going once, going twice. I don't see any hands. So thank you all very much. We will go to from the mayor and council, and tonight we're going to start with Jim McNulty.
Thank you, Mayor, and good evening, everyone. It has been a great first week as a member of the City Council. I want to take a moment just to thank everyone for their kind words and their well wishes. It's been quite extraordinary. Everyone from public officials, our Senator Cheryl Kagan, Congressman Trone's office, county council members, and people in the community. I think it was slowly sinking in, but it has really been just a great first week, and I'm excited to be here and to serve the community. This week, got a chance to meet with staff and our city manager, Tanisha, and the department heads, and they couldn't be more welcoming. So I'm very excited to be working with you all, and I appreciate your help. I know there'll be plenty of new guy questions along the way, so I appreciate your patience as I figure out this new role. It has been a busy few weeks since the election, including our swearing in last week. And I realized afterwards that I didn't actually thank my family during my comments. So if I could take a point of personal privilege, Mr. Mayor, and just thank my amazing wife, Amy, my children, CJ and Sean, my brother, Chris, my parents who came and helped on election day, but also my team, starting with Yvette and John Monroe, Isaac and Susie Liu, Lavette and Reggie Parker, Jason Lucas, Oscar Alvarenga, Rob Krebs, the Couturiers, the Vargas, and everyone who just lended your support. I really appreciate it. And you know, I promise to do my very best for the city, and I really thank you for that support. Before the election, I was actually scheduled to testify before the Board of Education in favor of the interim superintendent's recommendations for the boundaries for Kelly Park Elementary, Gaithersburg number 8. The mayor spoke on behalf of the city, but it was an issue that I had championed for years outside of elected office. So I did have the opportunity to testify in favor of those boundaries. And I appreciate Councilmember Harris's acknowledgement of those efforts during our special session last week when we were sworn in. It was a long journey, but in my opinion, it was the right thing to do. I want to thank our representative on the Board of Education, Rebecca Smondrowski, for her leadership and advocacy on behalf of the children of our city. The results were very positive, and not only do the surrounding neighborhoods get to attend the new elementary school, but it also redistricts those communities into Forest Oak Middle School, reversing an error that was made 20 years ago. So very excited to have been able to be an advocate on behalf of our students in not an elected role, and now as a member of the city council. Of course, it is certainly a part of my job to be an advocate here in the city and with our partners as well. And that'll happen before the job actually started. I've jumped in with both feet. In addition to meeting with staff and getting that orientation, I've been trying to get to as many events as possible. I was able to assist with the Thanksgiving food distribution through the Gaithersburg hub over at Seneca Creek Community Church. And I joined Councilmember Henderson over at the food distribution over at Lake Forest Mall. The Chinese Bible Church of Maryland was celebrating 45 years of existence and ministry, and they thought, what better way than to reach out to the community and help the people who needed to have something on their plate for this Thanksgiving. So a big thank you to Isabel and Pastor Hugo and Pastor Chris and the whole team that was working with the Equity Center over at Lake Forest Mall. Last night, I had the chance to do Walk Under the Lights at Seneca Creek State Park. My wife and daughter joined me. And as always, the Public Works team did an amazing job setting everything up. And big thanks to Gaithersburg High School for the hot chocolate. That was a very nice treat on a chilly evening. And of course, going to the lights has been a tradition in my family since before I had kids, when we actually lived up in Germantown. And definitely looking forward to going back through with my car. And the mayor was kind enough to show me around the Quince Orchard football games as well. It was a treat to be able to attend 2 of their playoff games, and I want to wish them the very best in their game on Friday. And I do want to end on a serious note. I want to acknowledge the good work of our volunteer fighters who responded to a fire in Old Town last week, the new South House Garden. Fortunately, they were able to limit the damage to a front door and allowed the restaurant to stay open. I'm told the cause of the fire was a discarded cigarette in an exterior planter. So I just wanted to take a moment to ask those members of our community who do still smoke just to be extra careful this time of year. We've got a lot of dry leaves everywhere. Fortunately, nobody was injured. This could have been a lot worse. Not just the livelihood of the owners that could have been impacted, but of course, the employees of that restaurant and the other buildings in that building in Old Town. So just, please, everybody be more cautious. And of course, resources are available if you want to quit smoking and make that one of your resolutions for 2022. And as an asthmatic, I certainly welcome any efforts that somebody that wants to try to quit smoking. Fortunately, a lot of my members of my family have done so. So with that, I will say thank you, and I yield back to you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Jim. We will go to Neil.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. And welcome to our 2 new members. Looking forward to serving with you very much. Just a quick suggestion is spend as much time meeting with the different department heads and staff as you can, because they're the ones that have the institutional knowledge and really do the heavy lifting for us. So lean on them as much as you can. Couple things transportation related that took place in the last several weeks. One is that the annual Maryland Department of Transportation Roadshow came virtually to Montgomery County, where it was our chance to testify in front of the MDOT staff and other of their departments, as well as the state delegation who was there to testify, but we got to go first. So we got to testify and hopefully influence some of them as well. The mayor sent a letter of testimony with very great details, assisted by staff. I'd like to highlight a few things that we advocated for the general public's knowledge. One, probably the highest priority that's very local to us is improvements along Clopper Road related to the new Watkins Mill interchange. We see traffic. We had anticipated for years as this project was coming forward that we would need some improvements to Clopper Road, which is a state highway. If you're coming from Long Draft toward Quince Orchard and trying to make a left onto Watkins Mill, it's very difficult. We probably need to enlarge the left turn lane and possibly put a left turn light at that intersection, which isn't there today. That would be the state's responsibility. And that the advocacy in general for that intersection and that stretch of roadway was echoed by a number of our state and county representatives on our behalf. So that was great. There were a number of other suggestions that were made that I won't go into great length here. The other transportation related event was the monthly Transportation Planning Board meeting, where nothing controversial took place, thank goodness, because we had a lot of controversy earlier this year. A couple of interesting things were the proposal of the organizations and the region's transit safety targets, which is really important. There have been a number of safety issues, particularly affecting Metro. So some new targets to try to improve safety were proposed. And also there was a discussion of connected and automated vehicles and what kind of policy should be put in place. That was interesting because nobody has any idea how automated vehicles will work or will impact transportation. So there was a lot of kind of forward thinking of how this might impact and what we should do to anticipate it. And I'm sure that will be a subject of much further discussion, assuming they get the bugs out of automated vehicles, which could very well be a long way from here, or could be, next year. We don't really know at this point. So anyway, more to come as things develop. That'll be it for me this evening. Thanks.
Thank you. We will go to Lisa Henderson.
Thank you, Mayor. This week was my first week as a council member, and it was even more exciting than I imagined that it would be. It started with the orientation from the city staff, and it's interesting to be on one side to be a recipient of the services, and then to see there truly are wizards behind the curtains that are doing this work. There was no question that I asked, anything that I felt confused about, that they did not only have the answer, but the history, and much of it at the top of their heads. So just thank you to the city staff, to the city manager, to the city clerk, to the city attorney. Thank you very much for your help, to the deputy city manager, to the assistant city manager. You have been fantastic, and you're welcoming. I feel it, and I will continue to send you my hundreds of questions, and thank you for responding so quickly. I also was able to attend 2 of the Maryland Municipal League meetings, one on tax duplication, and the other was a joint meeting with Prince George's County, and able to sit and listen and learn. And I'm excited to be a part of that group, to work with the other jurisdictions for things going forward and what we will accomplish as municipalities working together is very exciting. On past this last Friday, I had the fortunate experience of attending the Quince Orchard football game. I've not really been involved in high school football. I'm a huge football fan, but hadn't really followed high school football. If you spend 5 minutes in the realm of the mayor and listen to him speak of Quince Orchard football, it is extremely enticing. So in 39-degree weather, I voluntarily and excitedly sat through a game that is now so addicting that I will be there this coming Friday to see the playoffs. And I'm excited for the Quince Orchard team and the Northwest team who will be there together. And I'm rooting for Quince Orchard. It will be an amazing, amazing game. So I'm glad now to be addicted to high school football. Thank you, Mayor. I attended with Councilmember Jim McNulty, the Chinese Bible Church, who handed out 400 turkeys. And Councilmember McNulty and I got to watch the volunteers, over 70 volunteers, and the flow that they provided of cars that were backed up to from Sears to Lost Knife Circle. And we watched them handle the flow of this traffic and hand out baskets with food and turkeys in them. And the volunteers were laughing and joking around and having a great time while they were working their fingers to the bones to get this work done. So congratulations to the Chinese Bible Church for the work that they did on their 45th anniversary and decided to give versus celebrate within their facilities. So congratulations to Isabel Lee and the pastors of Chinese Bible Church. Last night, I attended the Walk Under the Lights at Seneca Creek Park, and it was amazing. I had a great time walking, and the youth volunteers at the hot chocolate stand enticed me into trying the hot chocolate, which was exciting. I started out with the 3.5 mile route and turned around and decided to do the 1 mile route instead. So I chickened out, but I'll go back and do the drive as well. So I am excited to participate in everything that's going on with the council. I'm excited, and thank you for the residents of Gaithersburg for choosing me to be here. And I'm looking forward to everything that is forthcoming. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Lisa. And we will go to Rob Wu.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. And I'll note for Councilmember Henderson, I did the 1 mile loop as well. So there's nothing to be ashamed of. As I'll echo Neil's comment, I'm very happy to be sitting in the first full session with both Lisa and Jim. I'll note I've worn my first tie in a long time. It's magenta in color in honor of them. Just wanted to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. It's coming up. Spend time with your family. Just remember that don't eat turkey and then drive, because it contains tryptophan and it'll put you to sleep. And then I just want to note, Mr. Mayor, that I attended the inauguration of a community garden with the Gaithersburg Chinese Alliance Church that was founded right here in Gaithersburg at the Casey Community Center. They send their regards. I noted that you were unavoidably unable to attend, and so they had to settle for me. It was a very nice event that was attended with Councilmember Sales. And so just wanted to pass that sentiment along. That is all for me.
Okay, thank you. I just a couple things. First off, I want to thank Neil very much for stepping in and testifying at the roadshow. Very helpful. Rob, thank you very much for making that appearance with the church folks. That's also very helpful. A couple of formal announcements. One I gave I intended to give to Lisa, but I'm just gonna read this one. And that is that notice the general public's given that the mayor and council and city staff will participate in an Ethics and Open Meetings Act refresher training on Monday, November 29th at 6 p.m. The training will not be conducted in person, but virtually by telephone, online, and phone. Instructions on how to view the meeting online or listen via telephone will be posted at least 24 hours prior to the meeting at Gaithersburg MD/virtual. And for more information, contact the city manager's office at 301-258-6310 and leave a voicemail message or email one of us. And I will also note that we will have a work session on that same night, Monday, November 29th, at 7:30 p.m. Same way you're watching us now, you can watch us then or participate in Zoom if you want to testify. We're going to be receiving annual briefings from the Environmental Affairs Committee and the Senior Advisory Committee. And again, it will be virtual. If you want to participate on the Zoom, go to gaithersburgmd.gov/virtual. The next regular meeting of the Mayor and Council will be on Monday, December 6th. So just a couple other notes. I'll join everyone in wishing everyone in the community, everyone watching, a happy Thanksgiving. And to pick up on the Quince Orchard football thread, that I don't bring up QO football in front of the Mayor and Council as often as it comes to mind, but I usually restrain myself. But here we are, QO again. Another reason to be thankful in this community is the quality of football. This team from the year 2006 or 2007 has been in the state final like 6 or 7 times, been close to it virtually every year. This year, they are now in the state semifinal. It will be hosted 7 p.m. on Friday night at the Cougar Dome at QO High School. They're hosting Northwest, which is also a great program and a terrific rivalry. And it should be really intense and hard fought and just a fun atmosphere. So I recommend it. And if Quince Orchard wins, I should just say the winner of this game will go next week to Navy Stadium to play in the state championship game. I'm hoping it's QO, but it's not the worst thing in the world if it's Northwest, because there are people in our community that go to Northwest too. And they're up there in our favorite teams, but this week we don't like them. They're the bad guys. So just so you know. Anyway, with that, I will turn it over from the city manager to Tanisha.
Thank you, Mayor Ashman. I'll be very brief this evening, but I just wanted to share a few things. That November has been a great month for recognition of the amazing work that our city staff does. And anytime I have an opportunity to brag on city staff, I love to take that chance. So I'll make a few announcements about some awards we've received this month. Before that, I want to mention that I really enjoyed my very first, so here's the impact of the pandemic. My very first city event, official city event, was Veterans Day and this year, obviously. And I will say, I think it was a nice touch for the city to make sure that there was a fellow Buckeye and a fellow Judd delivering remarks that evening or that afternoon. I thought his speech was incredibly insightful and inspiring, and I really appreciated the remarks that we received. But it's Beat Michigan week, so I just had to carry that Buckeye spirit through. This month, just in November, and we're not done with the month yet, the city's been recognized in several ways. One, I want to point out and congratulate our community services team, who was recognized by Montgomery County for partnership throughout the pandemic on lots and various Latino community efforts. The county recognized our team's dedication and instrumental support for all of the Latino community efforts that have been spurred during the pandemic. So I want to congratulate the team on that recognition. I also want to mention that you heard from the finance team a little bit earlier this evening. The city has received for the 20th year in a row the Distinguished Budget Presentation Award from the Governmental Finance Officers Association, or GFOA. That is a very prestigious award. To receive it for 20 years in a row is an accomplishment, but certainly for the team to have earned that designation with our last budget. So that would be our current budget that that's underway, was a feat in and of itself. There was a transition in the city manager's role. The finance director's role was vacant for quite some time, and you had a team of Nate that you saw earlier today, our budget analyst, and Janice Hartman, who was our comptroller and stepped up to be acting finance director during that time and wearing multiple hats. And they pulled that off, I think, in a pretty amazing way, and want to congratulate them for all the work that they did to make sure that the city continued to earn that designation for our budget document. And then just recently, we announced that the city earned a score of 100 points in the 10th Annual Municipal Equality Index, which is an initiative of the Human Rights Campaign. It examines the inclusivity of laws, policies, and services with respect to the LGBTQ+ community. Our score last year was 93, so we improved our score to 100, and that is over an average national score of 67 among over 500 cities across the country. So that is a kudos to the mayor and council and your support and leadership on our inclusive policies and laws, and our internal policies and administrative policies that help to create an inclusive environment. So congratulations to the city on that great award. And that is all I will say this evening, Mayor. I want to say happy Thanksgiving to everyone, and looking forward to the rest of the meeting.
Thank you, Tanisha. I want to echo your congratulations to our community services team and our finance team for those significant and proud accomplishments. And tech team, if you could bring up Tom Lonergan, we'll get ready to receive our economic development update. While Tom's coming up, I just want to note as a postscript to Jim's discussion of the testimony to the Board of Education, that the Board of Education did vote to adopt the superintendent's recommendations for the boundaries to Gaithersburg Elementary School number 8. I'm not sure if we made that clear during everyone's talking about this, but I think in general, it's great news. Essentially everything that the city lobbied and asked for, we got, including the addition of the scope to include the middle school. So now the neighborhood students can attend Forest Oak Middle School. They will be attending Forest Oak Middle School, which I know was a sore point, and rightfully so, for 20 years. We're having this sort of rare opportunity to right a wrong, and I know it makes all of us very happy. So anybody who's interested, just take a look at the Board of Education's website at the Gaithersburg Elementary School number 8 boundary study, and you'll see what the results were. Tom Lonergan, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and good evening, everyone. Just a couple of items for you tonight. Oncology company Genetron Health has officially moved its U.S. headquarters from North Carolina to Gaithersburg. The China-based company is focused on developing a blood-based next-generation sequencing test designed for early detection of hepatocellular carcinoma, a common type of liver cancer caused by hepatitis B. Today, I had the opportunity to meet with some key personnel and attend a small ceremony that was held at the company's new digs at 401 Professional Drive, where they've leased around 10,000 square feet. Genetron currently has only 10 employees, but they do have plans to expand following its clinical trials. Proximity to the FDA, developing interconnections with hospitals, pharma, and tech companies, and access to a great talent pool were identified among the reasons why they did choose Gaithersburg. I'm glad they did. Secondly, and finally, I wanted to give you an update. The General Services Administration auction of the former Nike missile site at 770 Muddy Branch Road continues. Unlike previous disposition of surplus federal land, this site and a small collection of other high-value properties are the first to be sold by the GSA via the Federal Asset Sale and Transfer Act, or FASTA. The first bidder entered the auction, believe it or not, all the way back on August 26th, with a required minimum bid of $2 million. Assessed value per the Maryland Department of Assessment and Taxation is just under 2.2 million for the 13.7 acre parcel. It's zoned MXD. Potential redevelopment could include residential and commercial uses. Yet to be determined are the impacts of various existing conditions, things such as potential environmental limitations on type of future uses and demolition of older improvements being the primary quote unquote unknowns. However, bidding has been brisk. The auction will not end until activity has ceased for 24 hours. And as of midday today, that price had reached 11.9 million, and the end of auction clock has been reset to 1:12 tomorrow. So far, 11 anonymous bidders have participated. City staff assisted GSA and FASTA representatives with identification of site-related data and the marketing of the property. Later this year or in early 22, we do expect that this property will return to the tax rolls. To whom it ultimately transfers and for what purpose remains unknown, but I will keep everyone posted after the bidding ends and we get a better sense of what may lie ahead for the site. With that, I'll wish you all a happy Thanksgiving. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much, Tom. I think it's remarkable that the price on that in that auction has reached that level. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that it greatly exceeds what we would have expected that land to go for, right?
And then some. Economic development staff thought, $3 million ago and a month ago, the bidding would have been over, but every time it goes up by another $50,000 increment, the clock resets. So see how much longer it goes, Mr. Mayor.
Yep. I've been talking for a few months about being bullish on the city of Gaithersburg, and apparently a number of others are bullish on the city of Gaithersburg as well. Thank you, Tom. Okay, we're going to move on to ordinances, resolutions, and regulations. And tech team, if you could bring up Sean Stevens, that would be great. And I'm not sure if Marcus Cafidi is coming on as well, but bring them on. Welcome, gentlemen.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. The resolution I bring before you this evening is to authorize the city manager to enter into a contract for supplemental snow removal services. On August 27th, 2021, the city issued Request for Proposals 2022-010 to obtain hourly pricing for the availability and services of a contractor consisting of the provision of 8 plow and salting vehicles with operators to provide supplemental snow removal services during winter weather seasons occurring in fiscal years 2022, 2023, and 2024. On September 24th, 2021, the city received 4 proposals. An evaluation committee consisting of city staff reviewed and evaluated all of the proposals. The committee recommended awarding this contract to South Lawn Services. South Lawn Services has been the contractor for these supplemental city services for the past 3 years, and the city has been very satisfied with their performance. The contract will be for fiscal year 22 with 2 automatic 1-year renewals for fiscal years 23 and fiscal year 24, respectively. These renewals will be subject to fiscal approval. The total duration of this contract shall not exceed 3 years. Staff recommends award to the lowest, most responsive offerer, South Lawn Services, in an amount not to exceed $145,000 annually. There are sufficient funds in the operating budget. Before I close, I would like to bring to your attention that there has been an edit to the resolution, adding the words "per year" after the dollar amount in the final paragraph of the resolution document. Do you have any questions for me?
Thank you, Sean. Questions, comments? I see Rob Wu's hand and then Neil. Go ahead, Rob.
Thanks, Mayor, and thank you, Sean. Just a question on James Trucking. It looks like it has a lower hourly rate. Were they not responsive or were they not responsible?
They actually had a higher hourly rate. They were only providing 4 trucks. So if you double the number of trucks that they were offering, they were only offering 4 trucks. So you really need to double what they bid to make it apples to apples with them providing the same number of trucks. They were only providing 4 trucks.
Okay, so essentially they would have to double their price in order to meet the same work requirements as the other
If we did, if they were able to provide 8 trucks, they would be more expensive than South Lawn Services was.
Okay.
All right, we'll go to Neil.
I'd like to move the resolution.
Okay, do we have a second? Rob?
Second.
Okay, I will call the roll. All in favor say aye. Any opposed say nay. Councilmember Harris,
Aye.
Councilmember McNulty,
Aye.
Councilmember Henderson,
Aye.
and Councilmember Wu.
Aye.
All right, carries 4-0. Thank you, Sean. Thank you, Mark.
Just a note, Mayor, do we have to move that as amended? Sean had mentioned that there was amended language that wasn't present in the written. Or did I misinterpret that?
No, we were advised by legal today that we needed to add the words per year after the dollar amount in the final paragraph. So it wasn't to be construed that the 3-year term of the contract was not to exceed $145,000, but it's $145,000 annually.
Lynn, do we need another motion?
Yeah, actually, the motion should be as amended. So you would need a new motion, a new vote.
Okay.
Move the motion as amended.
All right. Rob, you want to second it again?
Second as amended, and I apologize for not catching that earlier.
Okay, that's all right. We will call the roll. And all in favor say aye and opposed say nay. Councilmember Harris,
Aye.
Councilmember McNulty,
Aye.
Councilmember Henderson,
Aye.
and Councilmember Wu.
Aye.
All right, carries as amended. Mark and Sean, thank you all very much.
Thank you.
And tech team, if you can bring up Maureen Herndon, please, for our next item. Maureen, welcome.
Welcome. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Nice to see everyone. Tonight, I come to you on behalf of the Community Service Division to request the authorization of a resolution to enter into a contract with Housing Initiative Partnership, Inc. to provide professional one-on-one financial counseling services for the Gaithersburg Financial Empowerment Center, which is scheduled to open with a soft launch in February of 2022. I wanted to take a minute to send special thanks to Joanna Lofton, our project manager for community services, who spearheads this initiative. She's out of town today, so I'm here to present the request. And I also want to thank our department director, Britta Monaco, our city manager, Tanisha Briley, and our whole finance department for their ongoing support and guidance through this process. Community Service would also like to welcome councilpersons Lisa Henderson and Jim McNulty as the 2 new members of the council. We really look forward to meeting with you and sharing our vision and work further. Congratulations on your appointments and thank you for your commitment to our great city. As a point of background, we have been working with the Cities for Financial Empowerment on this initiative since 2019 to create a one-stop shop for city residents to obtain free professional financial counseling and financial support services that will include access to our collaborative grant partners that provide services in the areas of housing counseling, vocational and career services, VITA, which is free income tax services, and safety net resources. The Cities for Financial Empowerment under the Bloomberg Foundation have supported more than 30 financial empowerment centers across the country and will provide us with a sophisticated database for tracking of measurable outcomes, as well as support us in our ongoing fundraising efforts. This is an important part of the work for the next year to ensure the center continues to be a sustainable, free public service for all of our residents. To date, the financial empowerment centers nationwide have served over 128,000 clients, resulting in $183 million in debt reduction and $35 million in savings across the country. The resolution for your consideration is as followed, and I believe it's on page 40 of your packet. The City of Gaithersburg City Manager has signed a contract with the Cities for Financial Empowerment to support the opening and operations of a Gaithersburg Financial Empowerment Center. The city has received $150,000 from the CFE to support operations for year one and is scheduled to receive a $100,000 award to support operations in year two. Additional matching funds are being secured through fundraising, in-kind contributions, and reallocations within the community service operating budget that together will make up the total revenue needed for the FEC operations. The city is required to contract with a nonprofit agency to provide professional one-on-one financial counseling services through the center. Qualified nonprofit organizations were invited to submit proposals, and Housing Initiative Partnership, Inc. Was selected to provide these services. The contract for professional counseling services will be for 3 years with an annual renewal clause based on performance outcomes and adoption of the annual city budget. The total contract is for $504,250, broken down in annual allocations as follows: FY22, $127,750. That would be from this June to this November to next June. FY23, $217,300, and FY24, $159,200. The professional service contract is at the purchasing threshold that requires mayor and city council resolution. So we're looking for your vote and support. And of course, if you have any questions.
Thank you so much, Maureen. I see Rob's hand up first. Go ahead, Rob.
Thanks, Mayor, and thank you, Maureen. I just have two questions. The first surrounds the language of the annual renewal, based on performance outcomes. So I just want to be clear. Are there metrics in the contract that if the metrics are met, it's renewed, or do we have an option to renew at our discretion?
There's two levels of metrics, actually. Like, we're required to reach certain outputs and outcomes to the Cities for Financial Empowerment. And then within the scope of service that is written into the contract for Housing Initiative Partnership, there are certain benchmarks, especially around like the number of counseling sessions that need to be held. And then there's 5 different main areas of analysis on measurable outcomes. So each year that we look at this, if they're not, at the point, or they're not meeting those outcomes, we have the right to, go out and make a change.
Okay, can we, so there's 3, what I'd call them base years in the contract, correct? We're awarding right now an obligation on the part of the city of Gaithersburg for 3 years of funding on this contract. Is that?
Well, the overall, it's for 3 years, but we're doing it. We can end it after each year.
Okay.
You know
Okay.
what I mean? Like, I'm not saying it in the correct way if finance was on, but we have that out.
Yeah.
So
The answer to your question, Rob, is yes.
thank
Okay,
you, Tanisha.
So even if they meet the metrics in the contract, we would have the discretion to end the contract after each performance period. We're not awarding a contract in perpetuity if they meet the performance requirements. Is that correct,
Yes.
Tanisha?
And that's how I understand it, that this is for the overall allocation, but at the end of each contract.
It's not perpetuity, right? Because there is a max term on it. And just a reminder, these are the funds we're receiving through the grant.
But we're matching with our own funding. Could I just, and we don't have to go into it here, could I just ask to follow up and just to make sure with me? I just want to make sure that the contract doesn't.
We did have Lynn review the contract. So Lynn,
Okay.
I don't know if you have anything.
I'll follow up
additional
with
you
Lynn
wanna
then
add.
if I'll just follow up with Lynn offline. Just it's the way it's worded that kind of, I'm sure it doesn't, it is not actually written as it says on the screen here. And second question is, when we had the original presentation on this, we had discussed that the scope of the services was not just within the city of Gaithersburg, but was scoped as being broader than Gaithersburg in order for us to receive the grant. And part of that conversation was also a follow-up with the county to see if they would be willing to provide funding for this as well, because we would be serving their residents with the FEC. What, if any, impact will have awarding this contract with Gaithersburg funds to fund the FEC have on our ability to then either seek reimbursement from the county or continue our negotiations with the county to try to get them to serve their residents with some funding?
So we are definitely starting out this first year focusing on City of Gaithersburg residents, and City of Gaithersburg residents will continue to be our priority. We are looking, and most of the partners serve county-wide or serve greater Gaithersburg. So we are very interested in continuing to talk to the county about possible support and then like official expansion with that support. One opportunity came up last week that I'm talking to Tawana about, and I need to talk to Tanisha and Britta about, as far as another ask of the county and what that might look like. So we'll be talking about that over the next, few weeks.
Okay, I appreciate those conversations. And I also note, since we're voting on it tonight, there is no last Ask Lynn later. So I was wondering if Lynn could just come up and respond to my first question.
Sure, it is my recollection that we are able to terminate the contract after each year of performance. I do not have the exact contract language up in front of me, but that is my recollection from when we reviewed the language.
Okay, so even if they meet performance objectives or whatever the benchmarks are, we would have the discretion to terminate if we had like funding issues or something like that.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
There was an annual appropriation clause in it.
Got
So it would
Thank
be subject to annual appropriation.
And I'll note, just as a refresher, we're not voting on the specific contract language. We're voting on the resolution to authorize staff to enter into this contract. Which I
Correct.
know you know, Rob. I just want to make sure our new council members are aware as well, because I think they're the points of clarification are valid, and I'm glad you asked, but just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah, no,
Neil, I
Lynn,
see your. Oh,
Yep.
go ahead, Rob.
no, I should just say Lynn's answer satisfied my concern.
Okay, we'll go to Neil.
So since one of the main champions on the council of this type of program isn't here, I'll take it as a privilege to speak what some of the words that Ryan would say, although probably not as many. That this sort of financial empowerment program is like the old saying, give someone a fish and you feed them for a day, and teach someone to fish and you feed them for the rest of their life. The idea behind this and other financial programs that the city has entered into is to get people that leg up so that they can be more financially literate and able to take care of themselves and move forward. So I think this program has a lot of potential. I'm glad that in our previous discussions that this program has a number of quantitative and other measurements built in so that we'll be able to evaluate it going forward and make sure that it is something that is fulfilling the goals. And on that basis, I would like to move the resolution as not amended.
All right, do we have a second? Jim.
I like to second the motion.
Excellent. Okay. I will call the roll. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed say nay. Councilmember Harris.
Aye.
Councilmember McNulty.
Aye.
Councilmember Henderson.
Aye.
And Councilmember Wu.
Aye.
All right, carries 4-0. Thank you very much, Maureen. And congratulate Tawana for getting us this far as well, please.
I sure will. Thank you so much. And
Thank
happy
you.
Thanksgiving.
And to you, next is from the city attorney. You got anything for us, Lynn?
Yep, I did want to provide to you all this evening just a quick update on the nationwide opioid litigation. Just by way of background, there is a proposed settlement agreement from most of the manufacturers of opioids that would include a settlement amount of $26 billion, which would be distributed nationwide. That does go to states and local governments. Maryland's share of that settlement agreement could be as high as $551 million. The way the agreement is structured, the more local governments who participate and agree to the settlement amount, the higher amount the state gets. So the minimum amount Maryland would get would be 226 million. The maximum amount we would get if 100% of all local jurisdictions agree to the settlement is 551 million. So obviously there is an incentive for there to be agreement amongst Maryland because we get more money that way. There's also kind of a prorated, you know, if certain percent agree, you get more money. So there's this prorated approach to the settlement. That amount is paid out over 18 years. So it's not a one big lump sum at the beginning that gets paid out over time. The Maryland Attorney General has been involved in trying to structure an agreement between Maryland's municipalities and counties and the state in order to maximize the amount of funds that Maryland receives. So the Maryland Municipal League and the Maryland Associations of Counties and the Attorney General's Office has created a work group to see if we can structure a settlement agreement. Both myself and Councilmember Ryan Spiegel have been involved in those meetings and negotiations. Tonight is just an update. I will come to you for a decision on how Gaithersburg wants to proceed with this settlement sometime between now and December 22nd, which is the deadline for the state to reach agreement. But I did just want to let you know that those negotiations are ongoing with the Attorney General's office. And again, we're trying to structure a settlement that brings as much money to the local governments directly versus having those funds funnel through the state or through the county health departments. So that's really the goal, at least from MML standpoint of how we're trying to structure the settlement agreement. So there will be more to come on that in the future, but at least wanted to give you an update as to where we are. And also wanted to wish everyone happy Thanksgiving and go QL.
Thank you, Lynn. You took a couple of the words right out of my mouth. Well done. And appreciate your leadership on this important matter, as well as Councilmember Spiegel. So with that, I don't believe we have anything from any other staff. I will try to go in chronological order here. Have a great Thanksgiving on Thursday. Go QO on Friday. Have a great small business Saturday on Saturday. And have a wonderful weekend. And we will see you on Monday, November 29th for our work session. Again, receiving briefings from the Environmental Affairs Committee and the Senior Advisory Committee. And the next regular meeting of the Mayor and Council will be on Monday, December 6th. Until then, let's do great things, Gaithersburg. We are adjourned.